Hello everyone and welcome back to another BOOKMAS video, and today I wanted to share some books that I am thinking of possibly reading during the winter months. So my previous BOOKMAS video was my winter book recommendations list, and I had mentioned that I wanted to also share some books that are on my winter pile of possibilities. I don't do strict TBRs, I never stick to them, and I have slowly been compiling a list of books that I would love to read during the winter months. I had mentioned in the previous video as well that there's just something about winter where I feel like it's my favorite season for reading, and I tend to gravitate more towards fantasy and historical fiction, which I do enjoy throughout the year, but there's just something about winter that screams fantasy and mysteries and all of that to me. So I have a really long list. I will not get to all of these titles. I may not even get to half of these titles, and that's okay. This is just a list of ideas for myself that I can look at, and if I'm in the mood for a certain type of book, I'll look at the list and see if any of the books fits that mood. I also wanted to say another reason I have such a long list is because I can share it with you all, and then I would love to hear from you in the comments if you think some of the books I wouldn't enjoy, if you encourage me to pick up some of the books that I've mentioned. Depending on what you all tell me in the comments, that'll also help me kind of decide what book I should prioritize. I am also co-hosting Epistolary January in the month of January, so for January, the goal is to read mostly epistolary fiction. It doesn't mean every book that I read will be epistolary fiction, but that's the goal. So I really only have part of January and then February and March as well. I tend to think of March as still wintry, especially here in Southern Ontario. So I don't have a lot of time this winter to read all of these books, but like I said, they are a reference for me, just a list of wintry titles that I can pick from. So I am going to share all the titles with you. They are not organized in any particular way, but we're going to start off with all the books that I have physical copies of. The first book here is The Golden Road by Ella Montgomery. I only picked this because of the cover. I really don't know if it's super wintry, but I did read the first book, The Story Girl, in this, I believe it's a duology about Sarah Stanley, who is the story girl, and this is the second book, so still have to read it, and let me know if it's wintry. That may determine whether I read it this winter or not. I'm also planning on reading more Shakespeare in 2025, so I would also like to read The Winter's Tale. I don't know how wintry this one is, but I've heard some other ones, like I think it was Twelfth Night was said to be wintry. I'm not sure, but if any of you know, please let me know. But The Winter's Tale, obviously the title, it has winter in the title, so I want to read it in the winter, but we shall see. It's definitely an option. We also have Snowdrift and Other Stories by Georgette Heir, and of course, because the title is Snowdrift, I want to read it during the snowy season. I don't know if all the stories are wintry, but the titles are Snowdrift, Full Moon, Pistols for Two, A Clandestine Affair, Bath Miss, Pink Domino, A Husband for Fanny, To Have the Honor, Night at the Inn, The Duel, and Hazard. And then it also has Pursuit, Runaway Match, and Incident on the Bath Road. I adore Georgette Heir's writing so much, and I think this would be a really fun one for winter. I would also like to read Dark Fire by C.J. Sansom. This is the second book in the Matthew Shardlake mystery series. I really enjoyed the first one, Dissolution, and it's already been several months since I've read it, so I really need to continue the series. And it's set during the Tudor period and deals a lot with the Reformation and the politics of the time, so even though it's definitely a time period that intimidates me, I found the first book to be really easy to get into, and it did a really good job of explaining kind of the political landscape of the time, and I didn't feel like it was going over my head, so I really enjoyed it and want to continue the series. And it's definitely a darker mystery series. I think it's great for winter as well, so who knows, I may pick this one up as well. I just remembered this one book that I did not take off the shelves, but I really want to read, The Last Chronicle of Barset. I actually think I'm going to start this after Christmas, so just like in the last week or two of December, but not push myself to finish it by the end of the year. I'm going to start it in December and then hopefully finish it in January, but I really want to get this read because I do plan on reading Ralph the Heir by Anthony Trollope as well, and that I'm planning on buddy reading with my friend Elizabeth, so I need to finish this book and then we'll read Ralph the Heir together. So those two books are also on the list. I've mentioned many times that I crave fantasy during the winter months, so I'm thinking of rereading The Fellowship of the Ring and then finally reading The Two Towers and Return of the King. It needs to be done. I read The Fellowship of the Ring in June of 2023, I believe, and just never continued with the other two, and I need to. So hopefully this winter I will at least reread The Fellowship and then continue on with the other two. A book I've been wanting to read for a while, and I feel like World War II, because it's so bleak, it's really great to read stories like that during the winter time. And I've been meaning to read The Keeper of Hidden Books for a while now by Madeline Martin. I loved her book, The Last Bookshop in London, so much, and I need to read more, so this is on the list as well. I also really want to read Nelly Dean by Alison Case. This is the events, I believe, of Wuthering Heights from Nelly Dean's perspective. She was, I believe, the housekeeper in Wuthering Heights, but I first want to reread Wuthering Heights. So we'll see if I get to this one in the winter and then read this one, but I do really want to get to these sometime in 2025, sometime, hopefully in the winter. Another World War II story that I believe is a fantasy as well is The Dollmaker of Krakow, and when I ordered this copy a while ago, it was being sold on, I believe, Thrift Books as just a hardcover, not a library binding. And then I got it and it's from a library book, but that's okay. I heard really, really good things about this book, and it's set in Russia and it's during World War II, and I think winter is the perfect time to read this, so hopefully I'll get to this one. I recently talked about Autumn by the Sea, and I really need to continue the series with A Seaside Wonder by Melissa Tagg, book 2, and this one is set during the winter as well, and I love all the snow on the cover. This cover is absolutely beautiful, but it is a contemporary Christian romance series, which the fact that I love the first book so much still blows my mind, but I'm very excited for this one. So hopefully this winter, that is the goal. I would also like to finish the Chronicles of Narnia. I have the last 2 books in the series chronologically to read, and I believe they are The Silver Chair and The Last Battle. Yes, The Silver Chair and The Last Battle. Those are the last 2 that I need to read. And I'm hopeful that this winter I'll get to them because I love fantasy in the winter time especially. So I'm very, very hopeful that I'll get to those 2. I would also like to read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. And I think I was going to buddy read this with Anne. We still have to talk about that and like the timing, but I'm hopeful that I'll at least start it maybe in February or March, but I'm very excited for this one. It's huge, but I'm excited. Now for the rest of the books, I do not own physical copies. I'm just going to quickly mention the title and why it's on the list. I mean, by the titles of most of them, you'll be able to tell a lot of them have the word winter in the title, but we're just going to go through them really quickly. The first one is Winter Garden by Kristin Hanna. I believe this is dual timeline and has to do with a Russian fairy tale as well, and it's about 2 sisters in the modern timeline. And I've heard it's a great winter read, so definitely on the list. Another one is Echo North by Joanna Ruth Meyer, and I believe this is a fairy tale retelling, and I'm blanking on the name of the fairy tale that it's a retelling of, but I'll put it here on the screen. And I believe it also has little hints of Beauty and the Beast, and I've heard it's a great winter fantasy as well, so definitely on my list as well. The next one is one that I've heard next to nothing about. The only person that I know who has read it is Chantel from Chantel Reads All Day. She did give it 5 stars, and when she talked about it, it sounded really, really good. It's called Winterheart, and it's by H.D. Foxe. It says it has the magical snowy atmosphere of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, with the sweeping scope and large cast of characters like Throne of Glass. I'm really, really curious, and it says it's perfect for fans of cozy fantasy who want a clean, exciting read. So that sounds really, really fun. I also have The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon on this list. It is a ghost story, I believe. It is tagged as horror and paranormal, and that's why I'm hesitant to read it. But some people that I know who have read it have enjoyed it. I just don't know. I don't know, but it is on my list as a maybe. I also have Winter Cottage by Carol Ryrie Brink on this list, and I have read by her Caddy Woodlawn, I think it's called, and very much enjoyed that book. It was very sweet, kind of gave Little House on the Prairie vibes, and Winter Cottage is on the list because it has the word winter in the title, obviously, but it looks like it's set during the Great Depression, and it's set in Wisconsin. Summer's coming to a close, and it's about a father and his 2 daughters. It just sounds like a cozy read, reminiscent of very cozy stories like Little House, and I think it would be a great winter one as well. Another fantasy is Winter's Maiden by Morgan L. Bussey, and I've read the Mark of the Raven series. I enjoyed those books. I thought they were really good. Not like all-time favorites, but I did enjoy them. And with this one, I know Chrissy has read it and adored it, and the vlog that she shared where she talked about this book, it just made it sound so interesting, so I put it on my list. It looks like it is set in a fictional world that feels very Nordic, and I love settings like that, so I think it would be a great one for winter as well. A book that's been on my TBR for quite some time now, and I still haven't gotten around to it, is The Winter Soldier by Daniel Mason. This one is set during the Great War, and it's about a young medical student, and I believe it's also set in the Carpathian Mountains in Romania. And typhus is going around, and I heard it's a very harrowing story, but very atmospheric and also wintry. A fairy tale retelling that I'm also adding to my list is Snow and Rose by Emily Winfield Martin, and it's a retelling of Snow White and Rose Red. And a lot of people have read it and loved it. I've heard it's very wholesome, atmospheric, and perfect for winter as well. And I believe it's also illustrated, and I love that. So this is definitely an option and probably higher up on my list. Next up is Frostlight by Danielle Bullen, and this one is tagged as Christian fantasy. And this is what it says on the back of the book. This is probably one of the only ones where I'll actually read the summary, but it sounds so interesting. It says, "Here it is only the 9th turning and the leaves are spread over all the earth, everything dull and lifeless. 7 months of winter, is that too large a guess? 7 months of cold, lifeless barrenness? What if there's nothing beautiful in this oncoming winter? 7 months of it, barren, empty, lifeless. There's no one around to lighten it, no village to celebrate with, no family to cheer. Just the 3 of us, alone in the vastness of the empty forest, and we know each other too well to cheer. Here there is only emptiness and footsteps in the leaves as we wait for snow." Another one that I'm curious about, I'm not too sure it'll be the book for me, but the reason I say that is because I've read another book by this author and didn't love it all that much. But I'm talking about Frost Hollow Hall by Emma Carroll. And this one is tagged as middle grade and historical fantasy with ghosts as well. And that's part of the reason why I'm not too sure. I'm kind of hesitant to read anything with ghosts, but I've heard it's very, very good and very atmospheric and eerie and wintry, and so it's an option. We'll see if I give it a try. And the next one is very different. It's actually a thriller, and I'm not huge on thrillers, but I have read a few that were very wintry and really liked them. And I know Gloria, I believe, has read this one and really loved it, and I am very, very curious. That is 3 Hours by Rosamund Lupton, and I will read the summary for this one as well. It says, 3 hours is 180 minutes, or 10,800 seconds. It's a morning's lessons, a dress rehearsal of Macbeth, a snowy trek through the woods. It's an eternity waiting for news, or a countdown to something terrible. It's 180 minutes to discover who you will die for and what men will kill for. In rural Somerset, in the middle of a blizzard, the unthinkable happens. A school is under siege. Told from the point of view of the people at the heart of it, from the wounded headmaster in the library, unable to help his trapped pupils and staff, to teenage Hannah in love for the first time, to the parents gathering, desperate for news, to the 16-year-old Syrian refugee trying to rescue his little brother, to the police psychologist who must identify the gunman, to the students taking refuge in the school theater, all experience the most intense hours of their lives, where evil and terror are met by courage, love, and redemption. That sounds so good. So that's another one that is higher up on my list of possibilities. I have 2 more books to talk about. So the second last one is Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. I have not yet read anything by this author, but I've heard that this one is a really, really good one for winter. People who I trust have said that this is a great book and a really good winter read, and it's dark but beautifully written. And I don't want to know really anything about the story itself going into it, but I am hopeful that I may get to it this winter. And the very last book on this massive list is A Castle in the Clouds by Kristin Gear, and I believe it was originally written in German and then translated to English, but it says it is a YA mystery fantasy, and it's also set in modern day. It says, A Castle in the Clouds follows a girl as she navigates secrets, romance, and danger in an aging grand hotel. Way up in the Swiss mountains, there's an old grand hotel steeped in tradition and faded splendor. Once a year, when the famous New Year's Eve ball takes place and guests from all over the world arrive, excitement returns to the vast hallways. Sophie, who works at the hotel as an intern, is busy making sure everything goes according to plan, but unexpected problems keep arising, and some of the guests are not who they pretend to be. Very soon, Sophie finds herself right in the middle of a perilous adventure and at the risk of losing not only her job, but also her heart. I've been recommended this book by multiple people, and I really, really hope I get to it this winter. I've heard nothing but praise for it, and I just think it sounds like such a fun, cozy read for winter as well. But that is the last book on this very, very long list of possibilities for the winter months. My hope is that some of these books may have sounded interesting to you as well, and maybe ideas for you to read even though I haven't yet. This list will be useful even next winter and the winter after that if I haven't gotten to all of them. But that's this list. That is it for my winter pile of possibilities. And if you've read any of these books, of course, please do let me know and what your thoughts were. That's it for this video, friends. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next Bookmas video. Bye.